What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. I'm once again joined by Tyler. We are back for another video in our Spider-Man Far From Home community series, and we've talked a lot about these films. We talked about the ending of Spider-Man Far From Home. We've talked about the future Spider-Man films, and this is the last video in our Spider-Man Far From Home community series and our coverage of Spider-Man in terms of, right after the movie ends. If there's anything big that happens news-wise after this, we'll, of course, cover it, and we'll be back for the next Spider-Man film as well. So we want to talk in this video about Spider-Man and Venom teaming up. We want to talk about what that would look like, how it, is it possible, when we may see that, all things about Spider-Man and about Venom, especially with Sony and also Marvel in general saying, yes, this will happen. Sony definitely wants Venom to interact with Spider-Man. So there's a lot of, things to back this up, that this will eventually happen. It's just when, and, will they fight? Will they team up? How can they use them in their movies? So we're going to be talking all about that. And we'll also be saying our community series goodbye. So I'm going to hand over to Tyler to give his thoughts on it.
Well, because Venom is obviously a much different, by Sony's Venom, which technically is not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I really don't know how they're going to do that. And sometimes I hope that they don't do that, even though they kind of said that, well, it's likely. Hopefully, if it is likely, hopefully that means that Marvel gets a little bit more creative control over the Sony-produced Venom movies. That would be my hope. And the reason I'm saying that is, they don't even mention Spider-Man in the Venom films. The reason Venom doesn't have the white spider on his body, they've even said, is because technically he's not in the Spider-Man universe, so it would make no sense for Venom to have the spider on him, because it doesn't mean anything. So they did just the white veins instead. Now, if we get Venom and the symbiote suit for Spider-Man and all those things, trust me, I'll be very happy. And I do think we will, but I don't see him really being a villain to Spider-Man. I think they might have a little scuffle, okay, but not a big one. I really, truly see Sony being very hard on, no, our Venom, he's not a villain. It's a more of a comedic, not even horror, but more comedic anti-hero is what our Venom is. I don't dislike it, honestly. I actually thought Venom was not a bad movie. I think that it could only get better, really. So, having said all those things, I think it makes sense that Sony says, if you guys want to do a Venom Spider-Man movie, crossover, whatever, sounds fantastic. We're all for it. But he can't be the main villain for a Spider-Man film, which obviously would be a very different take for Spider-Man. I see Sony saying, we want Spider-Man and Venom to basically team up. They can fight, and they're both Toms. They're pretty funny, so they could kind of go back and forth, and that would be pretty funny. But I see Spider-Man and Venom teaming up together, and actually, even though it sounds kind of dumb, or even if it sounds kind of weird, if you think about it, Venom can technically be the new Hulk. Because I think Hulk's going to be out of commission for a little while. I think that's why they burnt his arm. I think they really, because they're limited by Universal Pictures, they can't do solo films. He can only be in films that aren't just about one character. It can only really be Avengers films. So I think it makes sense where Venom, he's almost that same size. He's strong, funny, but in a different way, in a more kind of sick humor, like a darker humor than Hulk. I personally don't think Smart Hulk or Professor Hulk or whatever they called him in this film, in Endgame, I should say, I don't really think he went over that well. Everyone I talked to didn't like Hulk. They liked the old raging Hulk. Me too. Where Venom, he's the same way. He's kind of brutal. Next to Spider-Man, where Spider-Man doesn't kill and he's kind of more funny and acrobatic, whatever. Then you'd see him fighting, and then Venom just kind of clawing through people, not bloody, but I'm just saying he just does things a little bit more violently, kind of almost like how if you think about Captain America and Black Widow, they fight very differently. Black Widow has no problem killing, where Captain America doesn't really want to kill. He'd rather knock you out. So it's kind of like that, but in a much obviously larger, literally way. So I actually think it would work to have a Venom and Spider-Man where they're working together and they kind of argue like, why'd you have to do that? And then Venom would be like, well, why'd you have to do that? Or something, I don't know, just weird stuff. But I actually think it would be pretty funny. So it's different. I don't know if I've really seen too many people saying like, oh, they're going to team up. But I do think they will. I don't think he goes full villain. It would be too different because then they'd have to deal with that in a second or third Venom, probably the third Venom film. So then they'd have to deal with, why was he bad and this and that. I just don't think they're going to do that. I really don't. I also think, and I said this in a different video, I actually think that they would bring Venom back when it's Spider-Man versus Sinister Six. Because Tom Hardy's not stupid, that's the thing. Tom Hardy would kind of get it. He's more for the truth. So he'd see through Norman Osborn's lies if he's the one who sets up the Sinister Six. And he would have already worked with Peter and Spider-Man in a different film. So he would already trust Peter. So Venom would never be part of the Sinister Six. It just wouldn't fit, I don't think, with this version of the character. But I do think it would fit where maybe he sees like Spider-Man, everyone's coming after Spider-Man, he's going to need some help. And then it would be Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, and Venom versus Sinister Six, which that could be an amazing battle. And again, different comedy, like from each character. Miles, like what he does, the way he fights, the style, all around, like how he moves, how he talks, the jokes are going to be different than how Peter does stuff and how Venom does things. So that really makes kind of almost an event, almost like a Civil War type film, where you got all these different characters and they all have these different personalities and they're kind of clashing with these personalities, and it would be a Spider-Man film, and I think it would work really, really well. So that's how I'm seeing it. I don't know if Alex thinks that too, but I do really see a team-up movie rather than a Spider-Man versus Venom, Dawn of Webs. That was a joke. I hate the Dawn of Justice title.
I agree. When we first made the video for the Sinister Six video, and we talked about the supposed rumors that the Sinister Six would be shown, back then I was thinking more of Venom for a Sinister Six, but the more Tyler has kind of talked about it, the more it's kind of talked me out of it, that I completely agree. This Venom isn't really the character for a Sinister Six version. Would it be cool? Yeah, that's a really big name that fill a really big spot, but what we have in the current Tom Hardy Venom is not that. So I see exactly what Tyler said. I mean, if this were to happen, it would be more of a team-up thing. And if they wanted to use him, I think, for a bigger thing, because I do agree with Tyler, I think, Sony's idea of wanting them to, interact, I feel like Marvel would kind of put their foot on it and say, well, he'll be in it, but, he's not going to be the star. Like, we don't want that, and we have our own plan. We think of these movies 5-10 years in advance, and we don't know how you guys, and, no disrespect or anything, but, like, they're on two different, mindsets there. So if you're going to have it, I don't think maybe an entire movie can be written around it, or that they can really build it from the ground up with that in mind. I think it could be maybe a smaller thing, maybe a 10-minute scene, maybe a really cool idea that they say, okay, well, we have this idea that we want Spider-Man and Venom to meet up and they're going to do whatever together, and we have this, that's the idea, we can construct where this is going to happen, what they're going to do, and then if it fits with one of these movies, then we'll put it in. And if it, if it kind of just flows and it's natural, where it will include it, I don't know if it would be something where it'd be, a big thing. And so, like, while I would want a team up of sorts, maybe against the Sinister Six, I also kind of wonder, like, I almost wonder if that's too much, if that's kind of saying, well, then you have to go into that movie saying, well, then it's Spider-Man and Venom versus Sinister Six, and that's like the full thing. That's like the full plot of this film. And I don't know if that is it could be. It could very well be that they have that in mind and that's what they're going to do. But at the same time, I don't know if they would, put all their resources in that. Just because, again, they're kind of on different mindsets. Maybe they already know where these movies are going to go. They've talked to what the director's talked about, how in the third film, or when he starts writing the third film, he'll think about how it ends. Maybe Sony has something to do with that, and they can say, hey, while you're thinking of these last couple movies, do you want to include Venom and make him a really big part of it, or kind of like just a cameo appearance in it. Like, how do you want to do it? And so it'll be really interesting to see how it actually works. So guys, let us know in the comments below, how do you think, or do you think, Venom's going to appear in these movies? How do you think they would use him? Do you think they'd use him for something big, something small? Let us know. And we also want to very quickly thank you guys for watching all these videos. Tyler and I really enjoy making them. We have a lot of fun making all of our community series videos. We really enjoy getting together to create these topics. We hope you guys have liked it. We've really enjoyed making all these videos for it, and we're going to be continuing. We do community series all the time on the channel for all different kinds of movies, TV shows, and games as well. So when the next Spider-Man film comes out, that is absolutely a community series we will be doing, but we'll also be doing community series along the way. So if you guys like the style of Tyler and I going back and forth, talking about the topics, about a specific thing, make sure you guys subscribe, hit that bell icon, make sure you're a part of the Podcast Now community as we continue with just future things that we have planned for the channel. So thank you guys so much for watching, so much for supporting us, and we hope to see you on future videos.